Hey everyone! You all have been so nice in the comment section and I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I'm kind of long-winded in my responses, but I ramble in real life, so that's just me. And I really wanted to thank the account Kids Got Toys for commenting about my camera settings in the last video. I honestly just turned the thing on and pray for the best, but I should probably educate myself on the actual settings so I don't have these lighting issues and wavy lines in the future. I had already filmed this video, but I promised to try to fiddle with it for future videos, so hopefully it'll be okay. There were a couple comments about how I was able to keep clean lines around the Simba and scar, and I will admit it looks a lot easier with sped up footage, but I was going painstakingly slow to avoid that issue. So in this video, I'm showing an easier way of blocking off edges, just in case you don't want watercolor to cross part of your line work. All I'm doing is taking my fine line resist pen and marking around the edges that I don't want watercolors to bleed through. Any masking fluid will do though, but I find this pen, especially with like the metal tip that it has, it just makes it so much easier to do actual line work. But if you do use Winsor Newton masking fluid, or I guess any other type of masking fluid that just comes in a jar or bottle, be sure to get those small silicone tipped brushes. Those are amazing for masking fluid, and then you don't ruin any of your brushes. I didn't mark off areas for the scar and Simba pieces, but it probably would have saved me so much time. I didn't do it because I knew I would be painting on both sides of the piece, so I don't know, for some reason I just thought it'd be easier for me to just paint around it myself. This current piece that I'm painting right now is actually a commission piece. The person is a chiropractor, and did I say that weird? Chiropractor. And she let me know that the atlas bone is one of her favorite bones. And I thought that this was interesting. It is actually the first of the cervical vertebrae, and it also supports the weight of the skull. So in going in tandem with supporting the skull, I thought that it would be interesting to make this video chat about supporting yourself and having realistic expectations. Because, you know, the atlas bone supports the skull, supporting ourselves, I don't know. It sounded good in my mind. Now, when I'm talking about support in this video, I mean mentally. It's obviously fantastic to support yourself financially, but that's like I don't know, that's a topic for a completely different video. This is a mental thing. So something I've encountered time and time again, not only with myself, but with other people, a lot of my friends especially, is the lack of confidence to put ourselves and our own work out there. Now you can't see me, but I made finger quotations around the words out there, so just try to visualize with me doing that. But out there could constitute anything, and I'm specifically speaking in the art world right now, anything to like on your walls, to gallery work, to in a show, social media, even showing something to someone, like from your phone or something, like putting yourself out there in a place to be vulnerable. People have actually DM'd me saying that their account is blank, because I'll ask if they're an artist or not, if their account is blank. And they say that they're not going to post anything until they're good enough. What? What does that even mean? I don't know. I mean, I constantly strive to be better than what I've done previously, but what does good enough even mean? I don't know. When do you know that you've hit the benchmark for good enough for yourself? I mean, if I waited for something to be good enough in my mind, I would never post anything. As creative and critical thinkers, I believe we're the most critical to ourselves. We view other people's lives, their work, their pieces, and think that's where I should be, or why can't I paint, sing, act, look like that? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great to have goals. And even better to have people who inspire you to achieve those goals. But it's having realistic expectations of yourself that is key, especially for the time period that you're in right now. For most artists I know, it's taken so many years, so many hours and hours and hours toiling away at their media to achieve what they can post today. So if you're just starting out, or if you're in the middle of your journey, or you've considered yourself a master and have only been doing this for, I don't know, 10 million years. Still, when you're having a hard time, give yourself a break. Give yourself some time to learn and to grow. We all have off days. We all have off pieces. It just happens. A little backstory of, I guess, my art journey is I've always loved art. I loved it growing up, and my parents will tell you I was no child prodigy when it came to art. I would sit there and I would draw Jim Davis's Garfield over and over and over again, and it got to the point where I was getting pretty good at it because I kept working at it. I would then start to make my own strips. I would even draw some of my teachers as Garfield, or I guess that's the other way around. I would draw Garfield as my teachers and then give them a gift, I guess, of that at the end of the year. I mean, I use the word gift loosely. They weren't that great, but it's, just something creative I could do. It wasn't until high school, though, where it really clicked for me, because my high school art teacher was just absolutely amazing. And to this day, he's better than any other instructor I have ever encountered. He pushed our mindset to what art truly is. He came up with these crazy projects and expected us to work as a team, which taught us about creatively collaborating. But then we also had solo work, which meant we had to rely on ourselves and our own skills. He broadened our scope of media, so I got to experiment with things that most people don't even get to in college. Our final project, for example, was this was for AP Art, but it was called a WOW project. And how he graded it was if he said wow when you showed it to him, I mean, like wow in a good way, he'd give you an A. How in the world do you base something off of someone else's reaction? But he was already setting us up for client work, because we constantly, in an artistic field, whether it be for gallery work or for commission-based, well, I guess more for commission-based, but you have to learn how to please the client. And in this case, he was the client. So I made a jelly bean lamp shade of Van Gogh's Starry Night. And when you turned off the lights and lit it up, it was like this glowing work coming to life. I mean, I said wow when I first saw it, so I truly hoped he did. And he did. Spoiler alert, he did. Which was really cool. But he also brought in art schools to tell us about their programs and what they would require for entry. They even looked at our portfolios and told us what we needed to work on. So if we needed more graphite work, or if we needed character design or something like that. And by the end of my senior year, I had been accepted into an art institute with a scholarship. He truly believed in us. And I just keep thinking in my mind, why is it so hard for us to believe in ourselves? Unfortunately, I did not go down the path of the Art Institute. I actually went to a 4-year university instead. And I will admit, I was very flippant with my studio classes. My instructors were TAs or graduate students, and nothing against them, but after being so free for 4 years in high school, what they were wanting felt like constraints. It felt like all these restrictions of what I couldn't do. And a lot of my classmates and I had really difficult times knowing what the instructor really wanted. My graphic design teacher was really the only one who let us think freely, probably because he was a bit nutty himself in a good way. But I knew that text, fonts, and layouts just weren't really for me. And after college, I didn't even do art. I just kind of puttered around like a stereotypical graduate, not really knowing what to do, just a blank space in my mind, no direction whatsoever. And it wasn't until 2015 that I truly started drawing again. And to give you a baseline, I graduated college in 2006. So that's like, what, 9 years without creating anything? My first attempt was a charcoal portrait of a photographer from Kansas City. And when I looked back at my Instagram for this video, in the caption it read, "Biggest fault," thinking that's good enough when I know I could push myself further, tackling this again. Now, if one of my friends told me they had not drawn for 9 years and then showed me this drawing and said this to themselves, I would say, whoa, buddy, WTF, this is such a great jumping off point. Why are you being so hard on yourself? Okay, truth be told, I probably wouldn't say WTF, but you get the idea. Why are we so hard on ourselves? And most of us wouldn't be like that towards a loved one. We take tough love and criticism and then morph it into basically trolling ourselves, telling us that we're never going to achieve anything. That's the real WTF. Okay, I realized I cannot say that and fully get away with it, so I'm no longer gonna say that. But you can see in this video, I am taking my time. When I edit and do time lapses, it's for convenience sake. It's easier to edit, it's easier to render, it's easier for the viewer to sit through 2 minutes instead of hearing me ramble for 15. But there are times when I think a real-time video to show the reality makes this seem more attainable. I did cut some of the dead space while I was mixing colors or getting more water, because who really wants to just watch paint literally dry? But I didn't cut much. So back to the painting for just a little bit. I put down the first layer of blue and let that dry just a bit. It was still damp, but let it dry, because I didn't want a complete mix and wash from green to blue. I wanted parts of that blue to really show through. And you saw that I was able to add salt to create texture. Experimenting is one of the things that I love doing most with watercolor. If it's too dry in areas, I'll add water. If it's oversaturated in areas, I can dab it with my cloth. To me, watercolor is one of the easiest mediums because it's forgiving and it's malleable. A lot of people would disagree with me on that, but I find those who do disagree tend to like acrylic or oil-based paints. So it's kind of like the battle of the paints. And I used to label myself all the time as primarily a charcoal artist for fear that someone would ask me a question about a media I didn't know the answer to, and then I would look dumb. I've spent so much time developing the charcoal media that everything else felt like a lie. Like, oh, I'm just a hobbyist with everything else, but I really like doing charcoal. Well, I can tell you right now that my mentality was so naive. It's great to have a focus, but don't pigeonhole yourself. Create the things that make you happy and the media that you feel like working in during the time frames you want to do it. Don't restrict yourself. I mean, unless like you're in school or like not supposed to at work or something, then yeah, restrict yourself. But you know what I'm trying to say. There's nothing wrong with feeling like you want to explore with different materials. And that was sufficiently one of the longest rambles I've ever had. If you made it to this point of the video, you deserve an internet high five, because oh my goodness. Comment below if you have experienced any of these doubts of just your work or like yourself, whether they're art related or not. I don't really care. It's just interesting to know what pushes people through those moments. All the materials I used are below, as well as this image is now up in my Etsy shop, so huzzah. I also have various like images or versions of this, so if you want to check it out, just look at the link below. I really appreciate you all watching and taking the time to hear me ramble and laugh at myself basically. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.